Don't know what went on there. The stream had a mind of its own. But welcome back, ladies and gents, to the Hotspur Huddle, the show every Wednesday, which is now going to bring you tactical analysis because obviously the Premier League is right around the corner. And with me every week to do so, I'm joined by the fabulous Wes. Wes, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, excited to be back. And yeah, just looking forward to this one. We've got quite a little bit to go through. Obviously, previewing Leicester on Monday night, talking FPL as well. So yeah, it's going to be a really, really good show. I've got a good feeling about this one.
No, it's definitely set up to be a good one. And like always, Wes, this show is sponsored by the amazing Kofa. So I'm going to let you do your thing far away.
Yeah, so Kofa or Kickoff Football Academy run football sessions in the Milton Keynes area. So that's Dele Alli, Leah Williamson country, for anybody that don't know where Milton Keynes is. So we've got lots and lots of stuff going on at the moment, mainly holiday camps and one-on-one sessions. But if you have a young son or daughter in the area or surrounding areas, then please get in touch because we would love to help them along their footballing journey.
Lovely stuff. So make sure you go check out Kofa, everyone. And let's kind of start with the show because obviously, Wes, as we know, the Premier League is pretty much just around the corner. How excited are you for it to start?
Yeah, I am really looking forward to it. It feels like it's been gone forever, pretty much. It feels like it's been ages since we've had Ange Ball and everything else. So yeah, no, really looking forward to the season. I think we are in for a pretty, I'd say a decent season. I wouldn't say an amazing season, but I think we're going to be in for a decent season. Obviously, we know roughly what to expect now from Ange in terms of the way he wants to set up, the way he wants to play. And yeah, I think our recruitment has been okay as well. So yeah, I am looking forward to the season ahead. That is for sure.
Definitely. And obviously, it all kicks off Monday night for us because we are heading, obviously, against Leicester away. I do have my Winksy shirt on. It does feel like it's going to be the Winksy Maddison derby. So, kind of before we kind of break it all down, how do you kind of feel, obviously, with those two players kind of going back to former clubs?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think this game in particular is going to be a good game. I think from our point of view, from Spurs' perspective, it's a decent opponent to kick the season off with. I know obviously Leicester have just come up, but yeah, I think the way that they played last year in the Championship was brilliant. I know they had largely kept a lot of the players that were with them, obviously the season before from when they went down. So you'd argue they pretty much had, you know, Premier League players playing in the Championship on quite big money. So yeah, I think from a Spurs perspective, it's not an opponent that you're like, oh my word, how on earth is it? Why are we playing these like straight off the bat? But at the same time, I think, you know, they've got good players, and I think they're going to pose us some really good threats. You know, in and around what we're trying to do.
And talking about threats, obviously we are going to whip out the tactics board tonight because obviously it is back, ladies and gents. So, Wes, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about how they were setting up in the Championship, so I'm going to let you fire away first.
Yeah, so because I think when you mentioned about Leicester, obviously it's a little bit difficult because they've changed manager obviously over the summer with Maresca going to Chelsea, and they identified Steve Cooper. But a lot of the time, Leicester in blue here, this was sort of the setup that you would see from Leicester, very much like a 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3 type of setup. Winks often operated in this kind of 6 role. And you would often see the fullbacks getting up and down both sides. So it was a little bit more of what I would class as I wouldn't say an old school Pep style, but obviously Maresca has spent and worked with Pep and spent time with him obviously at Man City. But there was sort of some like similarities. I know Dewsbury Hall operated really well in this 10 position, you know, getting up and down, late runs in and around towards the box, so sort of third man runs, and got a lot of goals for Leicester last season. Obviously he's not there anymore, he's gone to Chelsea with Maresca as well. But yeah, I think the midfield for Leicester is going to look a little bit different. I think the main difference that you're likely to see, I think, between Maresca and Cooper is probably that. So obviously Cooper a lot of the time at Forest last year, and you know when they were in the Premier League in particular, went 4-2-3-1. A lot of the time it was Gibbs White in this 10 position. Obviously last year he had Elanga, Hudson-Odoi in there. I think first season Forest were in the Premier, had Mangala alongside Danilo, and Lewis O'Brien has played in there, Ryan Yates as well. So yeah, I think that's going to be the main tweak from a Maresca Championship Leicester to a Steve Cooper Leicester, if that makes sense.
No, I've got you. It's kind of be a different kind of dynamic in midfield, and I think that's kind of the same with Spurs because obviously, talking to lots of different Spurs fans, we don't really know how that kind of midfield is going to set up. So, how would you kind of counter how Leicester are going to come out of the blocks compared to how we can kind of like nullify that and attack ourselves?
Yeah, I think, listen, we know how Spurs are going to set up. We're going to have our fullbacks, really, really high when we have the ball. I think we have a bit more of this sort of triangle type setup behind, and then it's like, right, let's kind of flood people forward. It's a bit like Bielsa did at Leeds, to be fair. But that kind of will be a bit more interesting. I think we'll end up potentially. It'll be interesting to see how Ange sets up the midfield, of course, because he's got some fantastic options. I have a feeling it'll be Basuma, Sarr, and Maddison. I would argue that is probably Ange's preferred midfield three at the moment. But I know there's been a lot of talk, especially on the Twitter sphere, as we say, that Lucas Bergvall should start. And I have to say, based off of his pre-season form and performances, I would be all for that, to be fair, because he's one that's really, really impressed. But like I say, it wouldn't shock me if we went Basuma, Sarr, and Maddison, and obviously Maddison's got that quality, to unlock a defence. But you're just hoping that he puts in a bit of a performance and turns up. I know it's obviously against his former club and a club that he holds quite dearly, in his heart. So I'm just hoping that Maddison, should he start and should he play, will put in a decent performance.
I think the only thing is obviously, what's the best way to put this? Basuma's been a little bit of a naughty boy over the weekend.
He has.
So with that being said, do you think Andrew will maybe kind of put him on the naughty step and not start him? If that's the case, how would that midfield kind of change, do you think?
Yeah, so I think that in terms of the setup in having a 6, an 8 and a 10, I think that will stay the same. It'll be interesting, I think, if he goes Bentancur or Archie Gray. The only reason for me that position is slightly up for debate is because obviously Archie Gray's had that pre-season with us, and Bentancur was away at the Copa America, and hasn't been back that long. So it'll be interesting to see like his state of fitness more often than not. To be fair, so yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Ange threw a massive curveball in there and stuck someone, like an Archie Gray or a Bergvall in, just to give them that taste and that flavour of Premier League football, to go like, right, if you want to be in this team, this is the type of game that you need to be comfortable playing in. This is the type of pressure that you need to be comfortable dealing with, because you're playing, like I say, in the Premier League now for Tottenham Hotspur. So you've got to, if you're going to come in, you need to take your chance. And I think that's been a real positive of pre-season. Because I think a lot of the youngsters did do that. They did take their chance. So it's given Andrew quite a lot of headaches, I think.
To throw another headache in the spanner in the works, because obviously Kulusevski has been great in pre-season. We've seen a lot of him down the middle. Now, there's been a lot of debate that potentially Andrew just revert to sticking him out wide. Do you see that being the case against Leicester, do you think?
Yeah, I do, because Ange speaking about Dom Solanke, and I think the question was posed, should he be available? Is he like ready to go? And Ange just pretty much said, yeah, he's fit, he's available. So, and I think when you spend, especially for a club like Tottenham, when you spend 65 million on a centre forward, you're expecting them to play. So it's like Solanke's not going to come in and automatically be sitting on the bench. Obviously, Richarlison's still coming back to fitness, so it wouldn't shock me if we saw that front three of Kulusevski, Solanke, and Son on Monday night.
I don't think any of us would turn our nose up at that. It's just annoying. So Decky's been brilliant in pre-season playing that position. But like you said, when you bring in a striker, you can't not play him. And it's true what you said, as in Ange is ready to kind of not stick him in the deep end, because he's obviously had pre-season with Bournemouth, but to put him in the deep end with Spurs in a sense. But it is going to be an interesting night, so to speak. I don't want to say what do you think the scoreline will be, but how do you kind of think it? Will it be an easy game, so to speak, in terms of it should be one we should be winning, or do you think because it's an element of them coming up from the Championship, it being away from home sort of thing, it's going to be a bit harder, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't think our record at the KP is the greatest either. I think we have a really mixed time there, and it's a real mixed bag in terms of our results and performances. I think as well. So yeah, like I said, I think Leicester are going to pose some good threats. They've got some good pace in wide areas. I think they've got that Fatawu back as well from Sporting Lisbon, who did really well for them in the Championship last season. Still got the experience of Vardy up front as well, and you can't really rule him out in terms of making an impact in a game. He does quite like a goal against us as well, Vardy, to be fair. He is quite quick as well. Obviously, I know we've got Van der Ven and Romero, who are no slouches, but you'd like to think in those transitional periods where we turn over the ball, with Winks' quality on the ball, as well, that ability again to see a pass, but from like a deeper area. If Vardy's playing on the shoulder, there could be some really good opportunities for him. So I think Leicester are going to pose some really good threats for us, and I think it will be a good test, but one that I would expect Tottenham to come through at the same time.
I just really enjoyed the bit where he spoke about Winks. It was great. So, but no, I think you're right. I think it is going to be one of those, and I think with the element of Maddison going up against his former club, with Winks going up against his former club, it adds that element of kind of, I don't know, there's going to be a lot of high stakes, so to speak, with those two wanting to outdo each other. And then again, obviously, with them coming up from the Championship and it being at their first kind of home game, it's going to be interesting, so to speak. I mean, obviously, we normally speak about transfers at the moment on this show, Wes, and yeah. I know that winger kind of conversation is still happening, and the fact that Spurs do want to get another midfielder over the elsewhere. Who is going to be that player, do you think? I know I ask you this all the time, but who do you think it might be?
Yeah, you did cut out, but I'm going to guess that the question was, who do I think the winger or midfielder is going to be? Really interesting. I was on the Park Lane pod on Sunday, and I got asked this question as well, and I went really like rogue and wild. But to be fair, one of the players that I did mention came up clutch on Monday night. So I did say that Spurs could potentially look at players such as Luka Koleosho and Wilson Odobert from Burnley. Obviously, Odobert scored against Luton in a really convincing win for Burnley. They looked really good, and it was a bit of a wake-up call, I think, for Luton, in the sense of, okay, yes, both teams have just come down, but Burnley looked like a team that had that feeling of we want to bounce back straight away, whereas I think Luton were caught a little bit rabbit in headlights as well. So that was interesting. So yeah, I mean, I've liked the look of those two for a little while, and yeah, I think they were probably two bright sparks, I'd say, for Burnley last season. So yeah, those would be my pick. I did have another name, but I can't for the life of me remember who it was. But yeah, it was somebody that I thought of, and I was like, that would also be another good option. But yeah, the names left me, unfortunately. But yeah, I just like Koleosho and Odobert because they're the type of wingers that get fans off of their seats. Like when they get the ball, they're direct. They want to do something, and yeah, I think they're still relatively young as well. They want to, they've got a lot of growth, a lot of learning, a lot of developing to do, and I think, that's the way that Spurs are going in terms of their recruitment policy. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me. Well, it wouldn't shock me if we didn't sign anybody, because I think, coming at the reports coming out today that Mikey Moore is in Ange's plans. So it's always nice to see an academy boy coming into the fold. So it wouldn't shock me if Spurs actually went, we're pretty set with what we've got. But yeah, if it was me, I'd quite like those two, to be fair.
No, it's a good shout, and I think that's the thing. I think obviously the fact that with Mikey Moore obviously getting that contract, with obviously Spurs saying no, we want to kind of keep him in-house and play, it kind of gives you that kind of hope as well that you see other clubs doing it, Wes. Why can't we start playing our youngsters?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you look at the Community Shield on at the weekend, and City had, they had Rico Lewis, James McAtee, Oscar Bob, and O'Reilly in midfield, who looked brilliant, by the way. Don't know where City just keep churning these like regens out. It's outrageous. So yeah, I think City had 7 first teamers out, still managed to get the job done against Man United. So yeah, like you say, other clubs do it, but it's the timing in which they do it, I feel. Because everybody wants to see their academy products come through from a fan point of view, but if you chuck them in at the wrong time, it could absolutely break them. So, no point chucking a kid in when, you're on a bad run of results, because the atmosphere isn't what you would want to include them in at that time. So yeah, I think the timing is crucial, and then you got to look after them. Like, if they do have a bit of a bad game, okay, just go, okay, it's fine. Like, you're still relatively young, and you're still effectively learning your trade. So yeah, don't jump onto them quite quick, because I think as fans previously we have done that with a player like Winks, with Tom Carroll, Jake Livermore, Andros Townsend to a certain degree, and I think there's been loads and loads over the years that we've jumped on really, really quickly, and you just feel like, okay, if we had a bit of patience, they might have come good.
No, I'm with you. I mean, for Harry Winks, he did obviously boss against Real Madrid, so I don't count Harry Winks in that kind of sentiment. But yeah, this is a game that I've been waiting for ages. Obviously, see Winksy, well, not in a Spurs shirt, but back against obviously Spurs, and get to see him on the telly again. But the thing is, Wes, obviously we've spoken a little bit about other teams, and that does kind of lead on to the fact that this year we are going to be doing a little bit of FPLing. I'm not going to lie to you, I ain't really got a clue what I'm doing. So it will be interesting to see how it kind of goes. But obviously, I'm going to whip up on the stream everybody that's already kind of in the FPL for the Hollie's Hotspurs / Hotspur Huddle. As you can see, like Luke from Park Lane Pod has got 50 Shades of Grey. I rate it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's quite a couple of cool names in there. But obviously, I can't see everybody's team just right now. I'm not going to share mine because that'd technically be cheating. But for you, Wes, have you got like maybe a diamond in your team, so to speak, that you've picked that you don't think many people will have?
Right, let me get my team up. So I've thought about this, like really thought about it. So I haven't gone big. I haven't really gone like really bold and gone, yeah, I'm like, I haven't got Haaland or anyone like that. It's just boring. But I think my gem, Holly, to answer your question, is João Pedro at Brighton.
Ooh.
Because he did really, really well for Brighton last season. I think he's their club record signing as well at 30 million. A lot of question marks over that price tag, obviously being from Championship, etc. But I think he took to the move really, really well. Scored a lot of good goals for Brighton. Obviously, they were in Europe as well last year, and I think he did really, really well. Fairly versatile, as in he can play across that front line as well. I know Brighton obviously got a new manager, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on. But yeah, my kind of diamond in the rough, if you like, is João Pedro.
I like it. See, I've gone for basic bitch. I've basically gone for players I think are going to do well. But this is a question I asked you because I'm weird. I don't have any Arsenal players in my team. And
I don't either.
Oh, that's all right then. I don't feel so weird now.
Like, why would we? Like, do you know what I mean?
I like that though. I was literally thinking, I ain't got Saka in there, I ain't got this, I ain't got that. And I haven't got any Saints players either, because, why would you? Yeah. Although it's going to be a bit controversial, I haven't stuck Winks in there, which I now feel a bit bad about, because I feel like I should have that should be my diamond in the rough,
Yeah, I'm also going to shout out this particular player because he's been in the Premier League a while, and I think this player really, really does not get his flowers, and that is Bernardo Silva. Oh, man, every time I watch him play, I'm like, what absolute baller. Like, he covers so much ground as well, and he's got so much quality. And I think in this City side, he's going to chip in with some goals, I think, at crucial times, but his assists, I think his just attacking output will be really, really good for FPL players. But obviously, he's just one of those where I think every manager in the league wants a Bernardo Silva. Like, he may not hit 15 goals and assists or whatever, but the work he does for the team as well, I think, goes really unnoticed. So I've kind of, like I say, I've really thought about this. So yeah, Bernardo Silva is a player I also want to give a big shout out and a big mention to.
No, you've definitely thought about it more than me. I've just picked players that I think are good, and then dotted it with Spurs players, and that's pretty much how I rolled with it. But I don't want to give away like secrets, as in we'll give away 2 players and that's about it, because I feel like Judgment Day will be obviously when it all kicks off at the weekend. So make sure, people, you're locking your team. I've just realised I've got 3 players injured already, so I'm off to a flying start. But I think we'll do this every Wednesday, Wes, after we've done our tactics board, and just see who's doing the best, I think. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Although I've just seen the aforementioned Jamie Vardy that I mentioned earlier has got a knock because he's on my bench. So he's got a bit of a knock. So there's a 25% chance of him playing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who Leicester play through the middle as well.
That's probably a good question. Who would you play for the middle if Vardy's not there?
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, they haven't got any Acho anymore. Pretty sure he's gone to Sevilla. So then that leaves Patson Daka, who is really hit and miss. I mean, used to be an absolute gem on FM, by the way, like absolute gem of a signing. So yeah, I think he would probably be the one that goes through. I don't think he poses the same threats as Vardy in the sense that he's not really a nuisance, whereas Vardy is. But I think he's just a little bit cuter than Vardy. But I'd like to put it this way: if I'm Romero and Van de Ven, I'm much more happier if I'm playing against Patson Daka than Jamie Vardy, even though Vardy's like 37, 38.
No, I think you're right though. It's kind of that experience and the presence he has on the pitch. That's kind of what you want. I mean, Darren's put safe bet is don't put Pedro Neto in the team.
Well, I don't know if he's going to even play for Chelsea because they've signed everyone else, to be honest. So, yeah, they've got about 40 players that they need to trim their squad. But I think what is also helping Chelsea effectively at the minute is they've got 14 players under the age of 21, so they don't actually have to register them for their Premier League squad, so they can just dip them in and out kind of thing, which is crazy. So yeah, like I say, Chelsea have signed everybody else, so we might be in this universe at one point, Holly, where we're like no further than 6 foot away from someone who's played for Chelsea at some point.
Could you imagine it? You can actually see that becoming a thing. You're right, Wes. It's actually mental.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting on Monday. Like we say, it'd be interesting to see how it goes down. It'd be nice that the Premier League is finally back. It's been too long, and I can't wait to watch Ange Ball. But Wes, it's been short and sweet tonight. You know, I think it's quite nice to try and keep it a bit concise. Obviously, it'll be a bit more full on next week, I think, when we actually dissect how the game went, especially if we're having to talk about zonal marking again. So hopefully that's not the case.
Oh, it's not even zonal marking. For me at the moment, it's Vicario trying to play out from the back. It's absolute. So for anybody that hasn't seen our last 2 games against Bayern Munich, Vicario played exactly the same pass to Spence and Bissouma, and we conceded off both of them. So it's a really slow pass into a player, and it's a straight pass, slow straight pass into a player, into either Spence or Bissouma. You've got a player up the backside. Bayern have full locked on the press, turnover of possession, and then, I think within, say, 5-10 seconds, they've gone and scored. So, but yeah, I don't think Vicario really thought about what he was doing. He's just tried to do it. And I'm like, mate, you're not Edison. Like, you've got to wrap them in. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that wasn't ideal. So if I see that on Monday night, I'm not going to be happy.
No, and I don't want to talk about it on Wednesday, but I feel like it'll be good therapy if it does happen. But hopefully it doesn't, and I don't want to talk about zonal marker. I think there's the 2 things that hopefully don't happen on Monday. But Wes, it's been great again to have you on. Obviously, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so Twitter's at Wezo10, the unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. Tend to be tweeting things about the best Belgians playing the Premier League. If nobody is on board with it, get on board with it, because everybody that's played with Moussa Dembele said he's the best player they've played with, especially over the last sort of 10 years or so. So I'm having that. Yeah, coaching wise, at Co for MK or Kickoff Football Academy across the socials for that. And I'm hoping to do some little bits and pieces football content wise across the season. So that'll be at WM32 Football for that as well.
Boo. Love it. What an outro. That's my favourite one. But yeah, like I say, we'll be back next Wednesday. There will not be a Hollie's Hotspurs obviously on Monday because we are playing. I might do a watch long, but I'm not too sure how that's going to go because, as you all know, I'm probably not the best person to watching football because I get very agitated. And like I said, if there's zonal marking, I'm going to lose my nut. So that might be a thing. But if not, me and Wes will be back on Wednesday to kind of dissect it all and more. But like we always say, and like next time, come on, you Spurs.